Hi, everybody. Adam here from platformOS. This is we're calling it episodes now, aren't we? 64, Town Hall 64. And we will be handing over very shortly to one of our front-end extreme performance gurus, Pawel, who's been with the team for many years now. I think he bragged that it was the longest time that he spent with the team ever. So we think that's pretty cool because he is very, very passionate about perfection when it comes to front-end frameworks, extreme performance, all those great things. Just yesterday, he shared a video in Inner Circle around the API JavaScript uploading tool that he tied in with the direct S3 image file upload service that he also developed for platformOS. And we thought it was so cool that we had to get it in Town Hall. And then we'll have Q&A. Maciek is also in the room, our CTO, and responsible for all the greatness and the core functionality behind platformOS. So if there's any really curly technical questions, get them ready to ask Maciek. What we will be doing in future, we've mentioned this before, is opening up regular Q&A sessions so that you'll be able to pitch your questions and have in real-time examples. Of course, everything will be recorded and fed back into our award-winning documentation site over at platformos.com, which will redirect to platformos.com because Clark got us that domain. Thanks, Clark. And yes, as I said, award-winning documentation. Watch this space. There will be a press release very soon about that. If it's already happened after the 12th of September, you'll be able to look back and go, wow, kudos to the documentation team at platformOS, of which I had zero to do with. It's all the team's work. Right. Focus on uploading files directly to S3 using Pawel's amazing new tool. And Pawel, over to you, mate. I'm going to stop the share. The floor is yours.
Hi. So, couple of words. What is API and why I even decided to waste or use my time on this particular tool. So, as you may know or not know, if you try to do AWS S3 upload, direct AWS upload, then you know that you need to know a lot of JavaScript, you need to know how forms work, you need to get through a lot of weird documentation on AWS side, then you need to know how we expose the same information that AWS is exposing, and it's a lot of work and a lot of cognitive load, so to speak. So, and at the end, to do a file upload that is robust and works good, has error handling, etc., it's very hard and at least a week of work to do what API is giving us for free in a modular way, well documented and works. And it has many adapters that not all of them will work. In my example, that's why I opened their homepage to show you that there are adapters like Google Drive, Instagram, Dropbox, which means that user can upload a file without downloading it to his or her hard drive directly from a service that is authorized via OAuth. I think it's pretty cool. There's an adapter for camera or external link. You can just paste a link and it will download a file from external resources. So, apart from good documentation, a lot of plugins that are like Golden Retriever, a plugin that makes you safe from any browser crash. So if you try to upload a file or five files and your browser crashes, drag and drop is another plugin. So if your browser crashes right now, before I click upload files, this Golden Retriever thing, or maybe it's used here, so I will be able to show you that it will No, it's not used on homepage because, as I said, this is a very modular script, so you can load just the files and resources you need. So we are in our project, we are not using Google Drive or Instagram or Dropbox, so I just didn't load it, and that's why the script is much lighter and doesn't need any authentications. Apart from that, it has built-in validations, so you can set a validation like I did here, like only images and videos. And this message is written by me, so I could lie here, but I hope it is correct. And so only videos and images, up to 5 files, and 1 megabyte per file. This is the validation that I have set up in code in those 3 lines. I hope you can see it. And source code is very, very much, it's much easier to use a plugin than write it yourself, and that's obvious. But apart from that, it's pretty, the way they structure their plugins, they are very easy to configure and customize. And at the end, that's why it's easy to use the adapter for S3. And the whole work that I did, the whole integration, is basically those 3 lines, which is take form fields that I exposed from platformOS and attach it to a request that goes to the S3 bucket. And this is the for loop that generates those fields that I'm basically forwarding to the S3 server. So let's upload a couple files. This file is too big, so it should tell me that this is exceeding the file size, so no can do. I can do file files, and after it's uploaded, you get the URLs. And this is the part I stopped developing this particular example, but in normal use case, you should get those URLs and send it to the database wherever you want. If it's going to be a model or custom file, whatever, you just need to use those URLs to connect the picture or file, whatever you are uploading, to a database entry. So I've uploaded those 5 files, and now I shouldn't be able to upload another one. Oops. Okay. Apparently I can't upload another one. Yeah, you can only upload 5 files. So this is great. And if I change the setting, I will be able to show you how Golden Retriever works, because I think it's pretty cool. I can try to upload 5 files, but I didn't click upload files, so they are in browser database. And if my browser crashes right now, or user crashes and comes back to the page, it should restore itself. And even though the user didn't upload it yet, now he can or she can continue without losing anything. And yeah, that's a very good experience. And coding that would be another week probably. And we get it for free in API. And there are a lot of small touches in this plugin that makes it very, very user-friendly, like progress bars. Of course, this thing you can turn off. I left it here because I want to encourage people to go to this documentation and really read it, because it's very well written, and you might want to use more plugins than I used here. Those are just the simplest ones, and there are client-side thumbnails generations and etc. So I encourage you to see how it works. And basically, how to get rid of it? Yeah. And basically, that's it. This is the whole API HTML that I had to write. Drag and drop area that you identify in JavaScript, and apart from that is just integration with platformOS, which is those 4 lines and those 3 lines. And of course, at this point, you have callback that you need to run after the upload has been successfully completed, and usually you will be either sending those URLs via Ajax or adding file inputs to your form to send it all together. It's really very specific, use case specific, so I didn't code the rest of it yet, but maybe I will expand on it later. And of course, all the source is on GitHub for you to see. Not a lot of code. Most of it is Bootstrap. Any questions?
And so, Pawel, that process of uploading, it's gone to S3, and then the storing of that S3 URL is handed back so that the front-end developer can store that against their database object. So they'll know if it's a user profile, or say if it's a whole bunch of product-related images or PDFs or whatever it is, it's then stored against whatever database object was associated with that form. Is that correct?
Yes. You can do with this URL whatever you want. If you want to put it in database, okay, you can put it in local storage, or you can send it via email. I mean, we don't care, right? That's why I didn't want to go too far with the example, because everyone will have different use case. There will be 3 or 2 most commonly used, but yeah, they will be most commonly used, and soon enough we will be having full example.
And so as far as that upload is concerned, if they're large images, I think you mentioned to me at one point like 300 meg was supportable as a file size if somebody wanted to do that. And then in the background, the platformOS service can be creating the various versions of that image as well and doing optimization automatically. Is that right?
300 megabytes is a limit for this plugin Golden Retriever, because it stores the image before you upload it. It stores it in a database in browser that has hard drive limitations. So 300 megabytes is this database, but you can upload, I think, up to 4 gigabytes at the same time to AWS S3, and if you use multi-part upload, you can go wide. But for images and videos, you probably don't want too big of a files.
Correct. Yeah, unless somebody's building Dropbox on top of us, and then what we will be doing is sharing our new chunking algorithm so that we can deduplicate storage like Dropbox does. But that's another conversation for another time. Right, questions apart from mine. What are your questions out there? Surely we have a technical question.
I just want to say that I'm really happy that you've done this, Pawel, because S3 definitely isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. And I've spent a lot of time integrating it into different sites, and that looks like it'll...
Yes, S3 documentation is very special.
Well, that begs a question. As far as then using this, what sort of extra bloat are we going to be adding if we implement this JavaScript plugin, Pawel?
Bloat?
Yeah, bloat. I'm using the word bloat because I know you're going to cut me down and tell me, no, it's only 3K.
No, it's not that good because there's a lot of JavaScript and a lot of CSS, but I will maybe release my version of how to load it to not be bloated, because I'm using it in our current project already, and you just need to load it when it's needed and it's fine. I think it's about 40 kilobytes altogether. It of course depends how many plugins you are using and which ones. I'm using a couple of them, so.
Still, it's lightweight is the point. And probably a lot lighter than if you were building and developing your own custom code around this.
Definitely cheaper, because API looks like solid 1 year of work, because it probably is working on every possible browser we throw at it. And this can be very, very time consuming. And it's done well.
Any questions while you've got Pavel's attention? It looks so easy, mate. You make it look so easy. There's no questions. There's the status bar going. There's drag and drop going. Yeah, I love that whole elegant user experience for if you've closed down your browser. Let's say you're listing a product and you've filled out enough of the fields. You haven't got to your images yet because it's like, oh, I've got to add them. You've added a couple, then you want to take a couple more photos. You've shut down your browser. The potential to come back and then lead on from where you left off is excellent.
Yes, and it's very configurable. Almost everything in this plugin is configurable. So even the size of this thumbnail or what should be shown here, this everything. So it looks like pretty, but you can make it so it doesn't look like API as much if you don't want to brag about it.
Very good. Well, it looks like you've answered everybody's questions. Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, awesome job, mate. You're off the hook. Nobody's got any more questions. Daniel's saying it looks great as well. Adam Cook said he's positive he will be using it, but he's had to go. And then we had, who was that? Was that Josh or, yeah, was that Josh who was talking before about his approach and wanting to use it elsewhere as well because of the very special S3 documentation. All right, good. Well, that's great, mate. Well, appreciate that. So we might as well then open it up to any general Q&A. While we have some of the Brains Trust here in the room simultaneously, unless Maciek is, yes, Maciek is still there. He hasn't snuck off, and Pawel is both here. Has anybody got some very specific questions on a thing they're doing right now? It could be a question around models, customizations. Maybe there's a question around Elasticsearch views that are coming down the pipe. Who knows? Have you got any questions? We're going to open the floor. And if we don't, well, then you all get half an hour back of your life, and we can make this a nice, short and sweet town hall.
Go on then. Hi, Adam. Seeing as you mentioned the Elasticsearch views, do you have a sort of timescale on that, or
was that a leading the question?
I think
leading the witness question. Sorry, leading the question, leading the witness. Well, I guess it's something that we need to throw out there for Maciek possibly. I know Derek's not online, but that's because I think this is his 1 hour of sleep per day that he gets. And Maciek traded his 1 hour of sleep a day to come here. Maciek, have you got a rough ETA? I know we've been doing a lot of work in the background on that.
Yeah, so the main prerequisite.
Sorry for cutting you off. Let's maybe give some context around that and what elastic views are. And I'll do my very best to give an explanation, and then Maciek, you give your better version. Think of models as tables, of course, in a database, and you have multiple tables. And rather than doing complex joins over many tables, which are ultimately have a big overhead in processing, CPU, memory, etc., not always very efficient, Elasticsearch View will hash the contents of multiple models and create an index over all of them. So you get the super fast performance out of that. And if values change, the hash for those indexes updates. So the idea is that giving you the power, currently we automatically create those and have done so for a number of years. But as we've now provided more and more direct database access through GraphQL, we are getting the same performance directly out of models, and then some actually, but there is still the need to allow for Elasticsearch views when needed for those more complex searches. And so have I done it justice, Maciek?
Yes, thanks, Adam. That's quite accurate. So we've been working heavily on allowing you to access the data directly via the database, having the same feature that used to be only in Elasticsearch, which is getting related models, for example, filtering by related models, and so on and so forth. And this is both for users and models. And we reach a point when we are ready to switch from forcing you to use customizations, which is Elasticsearch-based endpoint, and people, which is also Elasticsearch-based endpoint, everywhere for everything. And now you can just go ahead with models and users, which are database endpoints. And the reason for it is that right now, customizations and people, they get one-to-one with the database sync. So whatever you do in the database is just replicated in Elasticsearch, which is not efficient from performance point of view, and you don't need all of it. And you also often need to just process some data, like, for example, you might want to have case-insensitive search. So instead of storing like a string with capital letters, you might want to run some processor like a downcase filter to make sure that everything is lowercase, so you can just search by it and ignore the cases. And you may want also to join some properties into one. And this is where Elasticsearch Views comes into the picture, because it will allow you to write your own serializer for the data. So you not only get the flexibility of choosing what you need, but also how to process it before it gets cached. And this will speed up some specific searches greatly. The most common use case is for search pages, and Elasticsearch is great for full text search. And this is the only feature which is not supported and won't be supported by models and users, because that's why we have Elasticsearch. So as soon as this is done, we'll let you know. For now, all our attention was focused on delivering you the models and users endpoint, and we've just achieved it. So we need to regroup and start thinking about, okay, now that you actually don't need to use the old customizations people, we will define the plan how to make it the most flexible for you, because there came some use cases also from Shane, for example, that, hey, I just want to store some random JSON data and be able to query for them. And this is another great use case for Elasticsearch Views. So we'll group all the use cases and come up with a plan and share with it as soon as possible.
So that doesn't answer your question, Luke, but it sounded really good, didn't it?
Yeah.
You didn't need to just call it out, Adam. Thanks.
I think the point is that everybody is seeing the progress being made and knows how quickly we are delivering awesome functionality, at speed, and it's a priority. So you will see it. And it won't be like waiting for Business Catalyst functionality, put it that way. And we see a hand has been very politely raised. I feel like I'm in school again. Josh, teacher's pet. He's put his hand up nicely. Over to you, mate.
Exciting stuff to hear about that, especially on the JSON front. I remember hearing a little while ago about a GraphQL authentication layer for JavaScript. How far along are we with that?
So you were breaking up a little bit, but I think I heard you say or ask about the GraphQL-based authentication and the JavaScript web tokens. Is that it? JWT?
The JavaScript authentication layer for GraphQL.
Maciek, I thought I saw something in a pull request recently that had that.
I answered to your comment about this, so you might want to read that. So the authentication you saw was actually to allow people to import Facebook, Twitter, and other third-party auth integrations into our system. So it wasn't really related to it. But yeah, it's another form of authentication. So in terms of authentication, we recently provided the possibility to authenticate using JWT natively to work well with platformOS. So that there have been added a new graphical mutation to generate the JWT token. JWT because TT states for token, so it's JWT, and then another graphical mutation to use it to authenticate the user, but it doesn't bypass the liquid layer yet. So that's the improvement we've done, and this should work really nicely. But you still need to use the intermediate page layer to do the authorization part. So this is just for authentication.
Okay. Do you have any timescale on the full authentication, skipping liquid?
There's no date set yet. We believe that before we start jumping on it, we would like to fix another problem, which is well, not problem, but extend functionality of platformOS with some graphical subscriptions or equivalent, and this will be definitely before directly hitting database, but it will be a step towards achieving it. So unfortunately, I can't give you any rough estimate of the timeline for this feature, but we are doing some research in the meantime and gathering the ideas because it's a challenging problem to solve. There are various approaches and various ways in which we want to go. So before we finalize like what would be the exact approach we want to do, like talking about timeline is it's just guessing. So that's why I can't provide you any answer right now.
No, that's perfect. Thanks for sharing.
I'm on mute. Any other questions? Wow, looks like Pawel and Maciek are going to be able to go to bed before 12 o'clock, 12 a.m. maybe. Yeah? Looks like you guys are off the hook now. No more questions, but I think we should say thanks again to Pawel for the great work on the API JavaScript plugin for multiple file uploads and the direct S3 sort of enhancement that he has added. I think we'll see a lot of people jumping on that. Pawel's a great work with it. And also Maciek for staying up late and just answering a couple of questions. We do have those as priorities. And like everything, everybody's asking for everything all at once. But we do honestly have those two as big priorities around the authentication, what else was there, Maciek? Authentication. Elasticsearch views, but PubSub as well, publish, subscribe stuff. Excellent. A lot of good planning goes behind everything we do, as you know, and that's why we have award-winning documentation and lots of other award-winning things down the pipe, including the partner portal, which is actually being revamped now. The UX and design team are actively on that. Thanks to everybody in the channel partner community for your feedback around that. It's paying off in a big way. And so you will start to see the final version of the design, the information architecture, and then of course we'll be implementing that iteratively like we did in the last version. A little bit more effort that is going to go into that because there's just some things that we have to take out. There's a lot of information architecture and changes to the navigation to make it more intuitive. So it's not just slapping on a new skin and changing some CSS. There's a whole we're reapplying a information architecture and UX according to that. So a lot of extra effort going into it. And then we will have our marketing site after that. So watch this space. Thanks everybody for being part of this town hall, number 64. We look forward to next week when I think Ursh is going to take us through a case study. So we look forward to that. Everyone over in that later part of the world, have a good evening. Everybody in Australia, New Zealand, happy morning. And we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Pawel and Maciek, for staying up, guys.
Thank you.